Jimmy asks, have you been reading any interesting books lately? I'm hard shifting the topic because I do want to talk about this.
I was eyeing that because I'm like, this is like the first question that is podcastable. They've all been answerable with one word or sentence so far.
Yeah, I've been reading a few books because I read a lot. I have been reading Scorch Atlas because my copy of Scorch Atlas just came out or got in. Shout outs to Cloud Cuckoo Country for telling me to read it. It's pretty good. It's very weird and unsettling and uncomfortable, but it's neat. I like it a lot. So look that up on Featherproof Books if you're interested in weird or gothic horror literature, because it's cool. But I've also been reading Insomnia by Stephen King, which is one of the Dark Tower novels. And it's really great. It's a really slow burn horror novel about a old man. The main character is like a 60 or 70-year-old man who his wife dies just of like, old age and dementia and stuff. And he develops insomnia. And he starts to lose his mind as he begins to peer beyond the veil of reality and see the Dark Tower for what it is, and how all of the different levels of it are connected in this town of Derry, Maine. And it's very, very good. It's a really great novel, so I highly recommend it. But yeah, it's a good novel. Stephen King is good. People, I think a lot of people who don't read his books have an idea of what his books are like because of the movies and because of how people take a lot of the stories out of context and like don't really have much experience with them. But his books are great. Like, he is a very consistent writer. And if you like creepy, cool, Weird West metafiction, I highly recommend the Dark Tower series. Dark Tower is excellent. It is just truly some of the best horror writing out there. It is great stuff.
It's not the first time I hear them recommended. I have bought a few Stephen King books, but all for gifts. Never read them myself.
The blind evangelist.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know what people like. So, and they always get
novel. Good. I was going to say the next novel that he's putting out is supposedly very interesting. I've been hearing some stuff about it, just from my trade circles, and I know some people who've been reading it, and it's interesting. So I'm looking forward to that.
Let me just confirm. It's Scorch Atlas by Blake Butler that you mentioned before.
Yes, right? Scorch Atlas by Blake Butler.
It's a short story.
If only we had Cloud Cuckoo Country right now here.
Yeah, he would love to talk about this.
He did a whole video about that book.
I'll talk about it next week then.
Yeah, it's a short story collection of like 16 unrelated but related stories that paint the picture of a very strange post-apocalypse that may or may not be connected. It's weird. It's very weird to describe. It is, again, it's an ergodic novel, so it's like meant to be read in different orders and perceived in different ways, and just reading it cover to cover doesn't really encompass the full experience of reading that novel, but it's very good, and it's very cool. I highly recommend it, and it's mostly a mood piece. I think it's like, oh, ow, my chair just...
The cover is incredible. I love it, but the synopsis is what grabbed my... your description was enticing, but then I read the synopsis and I'm like, yes, that sounds right up my alley.
That's a cool one. Highly recommend this one.
I haven't read anything since. Well, since I finished A Song of Ice and Fire the second time around. Yeah, basically almost a year without reading much. Do you guys think that Winds of Winter is ever gonna get released?
No.
Oh boy.
No way.
He says he's halfway done.
Game of Thrones is done. That's all I have to say about that.
Oh boy.
Keith just read Plush, which is a comic book that I'm sure he'll have more to say about.
It's redundant to talk about because I'm trying to finish an essay on it now.
But that's basically the only reading you've been doing, right?
losing my
stuff for the essay.
losing my mind trying to finish that. Well, I read 3 other books for another essay that just like I don't know if I want to talk about it because of the idea of it's like it potentially promises what the next essay would be if I even have time to finish it, or I might change my mind or whatever. So that's a whole struggle. But I've pretty much just been reading for work because I don't have time for anything else, and I'm worried about talking about any of the things I've read. So the one thing
that get sponsored by Blinkist so that you can read more.
What did you just say?
We should get sponsored by Blinkist.
Well, apparently we don't need to because you're just fucking dropping their name in the podcast for free.
They could have paid for that shout out, Colonel.
I'll send my bill to. How do you spell that? What the fuck did you say?
No, they don't sponsor us. So that's just it. Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
But no, the only thing I've read for a public thing that's already public right now is that I reread the first 2 volumes of Black Sad, or the first 2 issues of Black,
Black
or whatever,
Sad.
Whatever they're called, the first 2 stories, because those are the ones that take place before the game we're currently playing. Because I started joining Toaster on his streams for Black Sad because I've been meaning to play that forever, and I do find that just in the ongoing discussion of how it's bad to about how all these furry media things, it's bad to use specific groups of people in the furry universe as an allegory for anyone in real life, because obviously furry species do have obvious biological differences from each other that might make them more or less threatening or different in more fundamental ways that then is actually true with real life bigotry. So on that level, it is very interesting that Black Sad introduces a furry universe where there are like polar bears and wolves and ferrets and shit, but then the racism is still about color. Like the racism is literally still color. There are black animals and white animals. It has nothing to do with what species they are, and that's that is an interesting surprise third plot twist third option in this debate is to do that approach, because Black Sad literally like the first issue is about investigating a murder that's covered up by this like billionaire or whatever. But then like, so you think you have like a vibe for what this is going to be. But then the second issue of Black Sad is about the KKK. And the third episode of Black Sad is about communism. Like the comics go hard,
McCarthyism,
fast, and
really specifically.
So you're like, oh, look at this go. Okay. It's a pretty interesting path things go on. But for context, we are live streaming this, and it was supposed to be Q&A because we didn't know what to talk about, but we kind of found our topic anyway. But I haven't been answering most of the questions because they've been like, "What are your pronouns? He, him. Are you guys LGBT support LGBT? Yeah, obviously. You're watching a slideshow of furry animals with gay pins on them.
There's 2 gay guys and then Colonel. I don't know what your sexuality is.
I'm aromantic and bisexual.
There we go. We learned a thing. I only knew the aromantic part because that's the flag you use. And then a lot of them are one answer questions, and one of them I didn't want to get into echo spoilers necessarily. And that's most of them so far. How do you do exercise? I go for a walk. I try to do it every day, but in reality it's mostly like every other day because you have days like this where I wake up and I'm like, I don't have time to do anything besides eat before the podcast. Oh god.
Yeah.
I ride a bicycle. I actually ride 2 bicycles. And because I have a mountain bike and a road bike. That's what I do for exercise.
I do push-ups and sit-ups and pull-ups and squats and just stuff like that all day long. Just like while I'm filling my water at the refrigerator, or if I'm killing time, like doing stuff. I've been packing my house up, which is a huge workout. That's another thing.
That's good exercise.
I just do exercise activities because I'll be like standing in my living room and I'll be like, oh no, I haven't stretched today. My back hurts. And then I'll like, I don't know, plank for 2 minutes. I'll be like, okay, I'm done. Like it's whatever. But yeah, let's see. Another question we had.
Actually, before we move on, sorry. Is planking good for core or for like back? Yeah. Interesting.
I mean, both.
Good for your core audience as a meme. And your core.
So it is good for both of those things.
I wouldn't expect.
It's hard to do. Like it is hard to plank for multiple minutes at a time, but it's a good workout.
I thought I would I would think it would be more like for abs and like, and depending
I mean,
on.
I think it is more your core, but you do have to activate your back. So I mean, it's going to be good for posture and
that's
stuff
fair.
like that.
Yeah, good point.
But I just no. I opened Twitter and there's too many people that are now following me because I did the fucking a sexy voice reading of the X3 Nuzzles uwu copy pasta, and
that was funny.
God damn it!
But
it's not a reason to
follow.
That's not the right reason to follow me. It's not a thing to expect moment to moment. How did me and Toaster meet? He helped me make my VR chat avatar or set it up, and when I was trying to launch the VR chat, the VR chat event after the Lego She Is Gay video hit a certain milestone, we're like, let's hang out and do a VR chat event. That'll be fun. I've been watching enough VR chat videos that I want to check it out, and he helped me fix because I did setting up an avatar is so fucking complicated that I couldn't do it. And then I realized that we have mutual friends and stuff like that all know each other, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I joined the Discord server because one of the people that was heavily featured in the Lego She Is Gay essay is one of my very close internet friends. And I had been a watcher of Keith's content for about 8 years at that point. I want to say 7 or 8 years. And so I joined the server, and then I was just in the right place at the right time. Keith asked for help on VR chat, and I was logged into VR chat, and I was like, oh, I can show you how to do this. And so I sent him a tutorial video that I recorded on OBS, and I helped him troubleshoot VR, and then
we basically met
fast friends.
We basically met quote unquote in person in the fucking Silent Hill bathroom.
Yeah, I invited him to it. My homeworld at the time was Silent Hill 2 ported into VR chat, so we met in the
that's cool.
Silent Hill 2 bathroom.
That's really cool.
Where was it? What made you all want to do YouTube? And if YouTube didn't exist, what other job would you do? Well, I'm the only one that does this for a living, so they would do the jobs they're doing right now because that's what they're doing.
Actually, that's not true. That I wouldn't be doing the job that I'm doing right now because
because of causality.
Yeah. So,
but you would if you couldn't do YouTube anymore. Would now be doing this job. Would continue doing this job.
Yeah.
I was a web developer, and I still am a web developer. And my job was my company. Yeah, I do web programming and stuff. And my company environment was bad, and my boss was bad. And I was like, I need an out, or like an out, as in get money elsewhere, and also to air my thoughts and just decompress. So I started my YouTube channel like just to sort of vent. It's not really venting, but just sort of like not have to think about work and think about something else and dedicate myself to something else. The YouTube channel never really got to the place where I could earn a living with it, but I did make friends through the YouTube channel, including you guys. But one of those friends was not invited me, but recommended me for a job where I am right now. And he basically, hey, we're looking for this type of person. You have experience. I can recommend you. And then I went through the interviews and the interview process, and I landed that job. So the job that I am right now is a community web developer, and I have it because of YouTube. Otherwise, I wouldn't. I would still be in the other bad company with the bad people.
That's a feel good story, Colonel. I like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Victory. This is your weekly reminder that almost none of the YouTubers you watch, unless you only watch the most horrifically popular ones, actually do it for a living. Yeah. Especially video essayists. Like if they aren't making like $5,000 a month on Patreon or some shit, they're probably not doing it for a living. They probably do it when they get home from work.
Yeah, I know multiple video essayists at this point that are also doctors full time. Like it is not an easy road to walk being a full-time video essayist. But I would love to do YouTube full time because I can't stand where I work currently. But My job is in market research, and that is the field that I am good in. I work primarily with film studios, and I like it because I like pop culture and I like movies. But the actual aspect of my job, the stuff that I have to do on a day-to-day basis, is very boring, and I am not interested in it. So if I could switch to YouTube full time, I would. But in a world where I did not do YouTube, I would probably keep working the job that I work because they pay me a lot of money. And even though it's boring, they never give me any real trouble. So I would deal with it because I'm a pushover.
Yeah. I mean, also jobs are difficult, but yeah.
This is an easy question to answer. Someone in the chat, Blue, says, do you guys have actual fursuits or want a fursuit? I am the only one here, as far as I know, that has a fursuit. I like my fursuit. Yeah.
He tried to get me to try it on because people keep trying to get me to want a fursuit. And like many things in life, I was blocked by my giant head. I literally could not put on Toaster's fursuit head. It was impossible.
My fursuit head is actually surprisingly tight fitting. Like, even for me, it is not a roomy fursuit head, but yeah.
I have such a big head that when I sunburned my scalp on a trip, I looked through several stores in their entirety before I could find a single hat that was big enough. I am an underserved market.
So you got a hat after you got sunburned.
Well, yeah, because I'm like, I can't let this be worse. This trip's not over. So like, I had to get a giant straw hat on my trip.
Better late than never. It's true.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, we were like in the woods and it was cloudy and I didn't know how much time we'd be in or out. And once upon a time I had long hair, but now I'm old. So I have to worry about stuff like the top of my head burning now, apparently. That's just a fun problem for me. I was up super late that night and miserable the next day because I literally could not sleep because my head was just physically like burning, prickling like in bed, and that's all I could think about. And it was like actually like it was agonizing. It was awful. To the point where I eventually I was like looking stuff up online, and I found out that the way to finally get to sleep wasn't any of the ointments or things I was trying to use. It was just go into the hotel bathroom, run the shower on really cold, and just stick my scalp under that for like 10 minutes.
Oh.
And that basically stopped the feeling, like it just got rid of the problem, and then I went to sleep finally. But the next day I was just so goddamn tired because I'd stayed up so late just trying to be able to sleep again.
Yeah.
Trips are fun.
I have a degree in archaeology, and archaeology field digs and stuff, you get sunburned if you're not careful. And that's the first thing they taught us, is get a big hat that covers your ears, covers your neck, covers your thing.
Yep.
And
I mean, when I was on my trip to Death Valley, I had a straw hat the entire time for geology and everything.
When I heard that, I said, I'm going to look silly on purpose. And I got the weirdest, biggest hat ever. It was purple and green. And it was droopy and weird. And nobody liked it. And I loved it because nobody liked it.
It's just that when you get taken on like a family trip to like Mammoth or something, and you like,
and I'm bringing the hat.
you just have no idea moment to moment like how long your excursions are going to be, or how outdoor you're going to be, or how much you're going to be in like restaurants or hotels, or each time you stop in the forest, is this like a hangout, look around moment, or are we like stopping and are we going to sit here and have lunch and then hike for 3 hours? Like, you don't have a good sense, because no one does, of how much you're going to be out, so you don't know how hard you should be preparing for stuff. And I paid the price. That's the same trip that I watched Monster Hunter on, and and it was also the trip where I was writing on that trip I was writing jokes for what would become the first video on my essay channel, because I wanted to rip off the band-aid by having a dumb video just to have a first upload before the first essay.
It's a good video.
So I was filling out a journal for dumb jokes for the top 10 video game characters of all time, while also that was the same trip that I watched Monster Hunter on the shitty hotel TV, which became like my second video on that the second essay on that channel after Annihilation. So that was like a weirdly eventful weekend where I burned myself.
Is that your new gimmick? Is you're going to make video essays about the movies that you watch in hotel room TVs by mistake? Your next essay is going to be Hereditary. Let's go.
Well, Hereditary
what about the platform?
Well, I mean, I watched several other, like I also watched that Spider-Man man do Dan Holloway. What's his name? Tom Holland. I watched that shitty Tom Holland movie about how all the men and their creepy rapey thoughts like come out of their head like a mist and people can hear them out loud, and then all the women are dead for unrelated reasons, I'm sure. Like I saw that movie on the same trip, and that movie was also mind-numbingly stupid, and maybe you could write about it, but it was the reason why I wrote about Monster Hunter was because it's this type of thing I've called like buttery mediocrity, like this thing that's just like so uninteresting that it just slips right through you. Like you're not like, shit, look at this horrifyingly bad thing I watched, I can't stop talking about how bad it was, Suicide Squad way style. But it's also not like Spider-Verse or whatever. Like it's neither of the extremes. But I decided that I realized that I kept thinking about Monster Hunter weeks later, and I'm like, why? Like, why was that movie the way it was? Why was it so unengaging? So I just wanted to go back and look at it and like, here's all the cowardly choices this thing makes. Here's all its non-commitments. Here's its like completely undeveloped characters, or why it has no kind of consistent tone. It's like, yeah, this is why this sucked. Here's why they fucked it up. So I felt the need to go back finally and check it out.
You were the revenger that the movie didn't expect. I tried to be wimpy, and then Keith came after me.
It's like the worst way to do a video essay, arguably, because you're supposed to be talking about topical stuff, and it's like, let's talk about this movie you all already forgot, and no one cares about why it was bad. And once again, I'm currently writing my next. Maybe this is my genre of thing bad. Is my thing bad videos are never about anything that was dogpiled on. It's instead like, here's a comic you've never heard about. It's bad for these reasons.
You have too much Jenny Nicholson influence.
Yeah,
is that what it is?
She has a bunch of videos about stuff that nobody paid attention to, doesn't she? Like I remember the one that I like the best, which is the what is it? It's like a super American patriot goes to college story where the feminists lose. I've watched that a bunch of times, and it's just such a stupid book. I mean, at least according to how she tells it.
Yeah, Triggered or whatever, right?
Triggered, that's the one.
Yeah.
All right.
And then all the Antifa ninjas descended from the sky.
I know, it was so stupid.
If you look away and then look back, they respawn like a Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah.
Just to answer the question, I do not own a fursuit. I like fluffy things though, but I don't like the warmth, and like I don't think I would be suited for.
It's encumbering. It's like wearing a suit of armor.
Yeah.
You mentioned looking for a new multiplayer game semi recently. Have any of the games caught your attention? Maybe.
Marathon.
It's a huge struggle every single time. Like. There's like several reasons why it's bad in some ways to have like a dedicated like streamer Discord that a bunch of people are just kind of in, because like the moment you suggest almost any game, there's always the two extremes. Either nobody latches on at all and you're like, well, I guess we're not playing that game, no one else cares about it, which is how most of them die. Because it is actively hard to get any group of people to collectively choose to pay for a game, especially if it's not like an indie priced game. Like, oh, it's $5 friends versus friend, let's go. It's like, everyone want to join in on the $60 campaign, and we have to all commit with the same group of people and meet this every week.
$70 now.
Sometimes, not usually. The examples that we would actually see. Like, it's a struggle because you have this collective group of like 11 people that might drop in and out from session to session, and it's like if you try to like lock in on a specific thing that you play from front to back in some kind of context, that means that the same people have to show up every week for that game, and they all have to choose. They all have to collectively choose to buy it, and you're excluding anyone not in that group, which is more or less where I brought up Diablo 4 recently, and that kind of lived and died immediately because almost immediately there was just too many people potentially up for it. And it's like, well, now you have to like exclude people in order to do it at all, and it just becomes a struggle. But then drop in and drop out games like Overwatch, like, which is why one of the reasons why Overwatch took over so much all the time was because it was a game that was, Overwatch 2 is free, and you can play with a different number of people every session, or even mid session people can drop in and out. And so like that kind of stuff is just so much more doable. But as that drops in popularity and people are turned off by the monetization strategy and the PvE news, or just burnout, you have to try to transplant all of those people to a different multiplayer game, and that's just like an entire struggle in its own right.
We could do sim racing.
I will not become a sim racer.
Let's all get into Forza, bros.
I hate simulation racers so much. It has to be a kart racer.
You need the ones that you can only drive with a wheel. It doesn't work with a gamepad. Those are the ones.
So your solution to the group is to gatekeep.
Force everybody to spend a bunch of money.
No, is to create such a barrier of entry that no one comes with you.
Yeah, it's just me.
Yes,
It's just me driving around.